Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The former WBO champion Joseph Parker has signed on with Matchroom in a 3-fight deal which sees his management arrangements restructured. There's a new position for David Higgins. He is going to be promoted by Eddie Hearn. His first fight is set to be on June 29 in Providence, Rhode Island. That will be on the Demetrius Andrade undercard. So I'll get to the press release just quickly and then a few thoughts, because this is big news for Joseph Parker and for the next phase of his career. He sort of had been in a little bit of limbo since losing to Dillian Whyte almost a year ago, only the one fight since, and it's been a big question about what would he do next. And many people thought that he had outgrown Duco events and the sort of support that they could provide him. What David Higgins could do, would he be able to push him back to a heavyweight title? And obviously on the balance of what they've considered, that they think that it's the best case to go with Eddie Hearn at this point in Parker's career, which is entering, you can say now, a new phase. And that's the way Parker has described it in interviews he's done since announcing this deal with Matchroom. He said it is a second chance for him. He's approaching his career differently now. And he also talked about, his mindset is different, that it's no longer just about doing it for Samoa or New Zealand. He's trying to get back to the heavyweight championship and win another belt, because this is for him now. That's not about anyone else, and he's approached even this upcoming fight differently, that he came into camp in shape, which is something that he said Kevin Barry can tell you that he didn't normally do. He turned up in shape, he wants to learn, he wants to get better, and he says, look, I'm here to do a job and I want to win the heavyweight world championship again. And at 27, he's certainly got time, but we'll get to the press release proper and then on to a few thoughts. So the press release here talks about him signing the 3-fight deal, June 29, the next fight. Team Parker also announced today that David Higgins has been appointed to Joseph Parker's management team. And just, if you didn't know, Parker's management team was always separate to Kevin Barry and Duco. It was off to the side with a bunch of his family that was sitting on a team, but also a former retired High Court judge. So the bout marks the beginning of the second phase of Parker's career and the start of the road to becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. My 6-year promotional contract with Duco ended on March 26th, said Parker. It was wonderfully successful partnership, so much so that David Higgins will always be part of my team, advocating in my best interest in a management capacity. And Higgins, he had actually said in recent weeks and months that if the best thing was for him to step aside and have a different role, he was happy to do that. And I got to say, a lot of people within boxing, given, some of the history, wouldn't have been so obliging to step aside and take on a new role like that. Some people would have ridden it right into the ground. And Parker continues, since my contract with Duco ended, I've been a free agent, with my team and I spending several months assessing how to best achieve my goal of not only becoming a world champion again, but unifying all the belts to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. It then says Parker and his management team conducted a robust process that included seeking offers from boxing's most prominent promoters. He says, ultimately, we decided that the best option was to partner with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing. We believe the 3-fight deal that we're announcing today will start a long and successful partnership. And Eddie Hearn, he says, if Joseph Parker performs the way we all know he can in these next 3 fights, then he will have a strong case for some huge fights. Parker is a young man with a great mix of experience and ambition, and this is a really exciting signing for Matchroom. And I must say, I'm also looking forward to sparring again with my old mate David Higgins as we haggle over the terms of each deal for Joseph. David unquestionably has Joseph's best interest at heart, and he's a tough negotiator, so there are going to be some interesting discussions ahead. Higgins said, this is absolutely the right decision for Joseph and Team Parker, which I've supported every step of the way. I'm pleased that I can now work with Joseph's existing management team to help carefully guide the remainder of his career. And Higgins confirmed the creation of a new management company, Sports Advisory and Management Limited, with his business partner Rachel Carroll, a former international pole vaulter. The company will manage and advise a stable of talented athletes. So I guess that signals for David Higgins that he is out of the boxing promoter business, and I must say that that was always a bit of a side venture for Duco to some extent. They were actually an event management company, so boxing promoting and that work wasn't exactly core business. business. It was always a little bit on the fringe, but it was something that he entered into because he had Joseph Parker, had another sort of a few fighters in the stable at different times, including Jeff Horn. He's obviously still promoted by the other side of Duco Events. Dean Lonergan, if you don't know, there was a split between the two, and Lonergan got Horn and Higgins got Parker. So Higgins is effectively bowing out, by the looks of it, of the boxing promoter business. He will now advise Joseph Parker as part of his management team. And I think that's probably a good move, because I think there was certainly a case that Parker, with where things are at the landscape in the heavyweight division at the moment, with broadcasting and promoter silos forming three distinct different groups. You have, especially in America, you have DAZN and Matchroom, you have Showtime, Fox, and the PBC stable, and then also Top Rank and ESPN partnering up as well. And they've all been sort of building their stocks up. But Matchroom has been signing a number of top fighters in recent months, not only to fight on DAZN, but also more broadly. So you've got the likes of Alexander Usyk, Filip Hrgović, Zhilei Zhang, Sergey Kuzmin, Michael Hunter. There is others as well. So they have been building up their stocks as well, and Parker is the latest addition to that. But the final piece here, which in the press conference, which I almost skipped over, but I'll quickly note before getting on to other things here, the fight will be streamed on DAZN in the US. This is the June 29th one, available on Sky Sports UK. Negotiations are underway for live broadcast rights in New Zealand. And that may seem like a bit of a throwaway line, but there was a piece in the New Zealand media the other day that talked about that Sky Sports New Zealand may not be a lock for that. There is another entity, Spark Sport, which Spark is effectively Telecom New Zealand. That's still a big company. They run, mobile services and telephone lines, all that sort of stuff. Not as big as it used to be, because a number of years ago it was split off from the sort of lines business, which is, the infrastructure side of the business, which is a different company called Chorus. But Spark is still a big company in New Zealand. They've been making a push into sports rights and broadcasting, through streaming services. They won the rights to the Rugby World Cup that will be streamed in New Zealand later this year. So they have been making a push into this. And I believe they've got other things like Formula One and a few other bits and pieces. So if they can actually push into picking up Joseph Parker fights, that's them looking to, go head to head with Sky Sports, which has been its parent company, Sky New Zealand, hasn't been doing as well in recent years. Obviously, it's part of an older model, more infrastructure-heavy satellites and all that sort of stuff. Once upon a time, it was a complete monopoly for Sky Sports New Zealand. But if they are going to have a crack at Joseph Parker's broadcasting rights here, that certainly would probably push a few more people into different packages, I'm sure, with Spark Sport, if they can have a viable product that people can buy. I think at the moment there isn't enough critical mass for me to be interested in buying that. I have a Sky Sports, on my phone subscription. So, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, Joseph Parker is going to be fighting on the 29th of June. He's now fighting for Matchroom. His first fight will be on DAZN. And there is a difference here about, someone like Michael Hunter, they had announced he'd signed for Matchroom USA. Parker has just signed for Matchroom Boxing, which I think there's a key distinction there, because I think that is going to allow him to fight in both the UK and also the US. He's not just tethered to DAZN here. It's really where Matchroom want to put him. And Parker has previously spoken about his desire to keep fighting in the UK, loves fighting there, has had 3 fights there, Hughie Fury, Anthony Joshua, and also Dillian Whyte. So I expect one of these 3 fights, maybe even 2, we will actually see him in the UK again. I think this first fight is about trying to get him back in the ring. Really, it's effectively a tune-up fight. Remember, he hasn't fought since December 2018. That was against Alexander Flores. It was a 3-round knockover job. That was a confidence builder. Since then, he's been out of the ring. So he's probably going to have to shake off a little bit of ring rust. And there's been a lot of talk about who the opponent might be. This is Joseph Parker's Twitter page. He has retweeted the announcement. So one here from Dan Raphael and also one from The Ring. And both of these mention that he's going to be fighting Eric Molina. That doesn't appear to be officially confirmed. It's not up on BoxRec, and that certainly wasn't in the press release. And I have some questions about it because Eric Molina is on a UCAD ban until October. So it'll be interesting to see if Molina is in fact the opponent. But it's been Molina and Parker's name has been connected for quite some time now. So if he is going to be fighting Molina, I'd like to see what they're going to say about that. But yeah, that can be for another day. But in terms of David Higgins, yeah, he hasn't said too much. This is his Twitter page here. He says, "I'm lost for words. Eddie Hearn, PS, you must expand the photo to full size to fully appreciate it, which we shall do." And this is Eddie Hearn's post during his interview. Rightio, so David Higgins trolling Eddie Hearn to the last. But yeah, I like this deal for Joseph Parker because I certainly was one of those people that believed the Duco sort of what they were doing there after 6.5 years, that had probably reached a natural conclusion. I mean, they were in the position that they were one of the few independents with a boxer, a heavyweight boxer in Joseph Parker with a relatively good profile, relatively big name that was not aligned with one of the different broadcasters. And now he has hitched his wagon to Matchroom USA. So there will be plenty of fights for him to have within the Matchroom stable and Matchroom USA stable. Plenty of guys who I wouldn't mind seeing him against a guy like Sergey Kuzmin, or even, if he wants to try and make a run down the WBO. Zhili Zhang has a high ranking there. There's a number of fighters that he could face that I think we'd go, okay, if they're looking to build him up to a bigger fight. So effectively, from what Eddie Hearn said in the press release was, after the 3 fights, there's some big fights there for Parker. So they're wanting him to, effectively audition for a much, much bigger fight. And that's not to say he can't have it within that 3-fight deal, but he probably needs to just do a little bit on his profile here, have a couple of good, well-matched fights where he can look good, look explosive, and show what he's been doing in the gym. And it's a case where Eddie Hearn has to build him back up to a point where he's ready for a title shot, but also that he's got a solid profile behind him. It's sort of interest in Joseph Parker has sort of dipped off in the last year or so after those 2 losses he suffered. He's been a little bit ghost, with the performances, only the Flores fight. So yeah, I think this is a logical move for Parker. Credit to David Higgins for stepping aside. He'll still be playing a role, and I think this is the best move for him. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.